Ramon's kids came
No,
in freshman year.
I had petitioned my 3 stepchildren. Ramon had been married before, had 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And so when we first got married, I petitioned his children to come to the United States as their immediate relative, their stepmom, and it was approved. But their mother would not let them come for 10 years.
Yeah.
She fought us tooth and nail on allowing his 3 children to come. And at one point we even said, let one come every year for summer vacation to visit. We'll pay for everything, they can come. Then the next year you pick another one to come. You know, we'd alternate the kids.
Oh, she wouldn't even do that, huh?
She wouldn't even do that.
So it wasn't like you have to give them up or
Oh,
else.
no.
It was
No. It was like, let them come for a visit, one at a time. You know, every year send a different kid. But she was afraid. I mean, she didn't know me. She was afraid because he had divorced her. She never thought she was going to get divorced from him. Side note, they're remarried.
Yeah. They've been remarried.
They've been married for 20 something years, since 1986. 87, excuse me. 87 and 97, 27, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh my God, 26 years?
Yeah.
God, time flies. So, anyway, I petitioned the 3 stepchildren. Took 10 years, really only after a visit from her cousin Ronnie, who came and stayed with us.
Oh, that was
And Ronnie went back to the Philippines, and I guess he told her that, hey, this is a good situation to send the kids to. And because the Philippines was having terrible political unrest at that time, Marcos was in the presidency, President Marcos, and they were afraid that the Philippines was going to become communistic. And she was afraid that the kids would get stuck in the Philippines between communist lines and not be able to get out even if they wanted to. So at that point, she was self-sacrificing and allowed the children to come. And so I reactivated the petition, and the kids were coming. So Ramon's mother, who lived in Vallejo, California, his dad had been dead since 1969, and this was the 80s, the very early 80s. His mother went back to the Philippines to pick the children up and bring them back to the United States, and thus we went to California to pick them up at the airport. I guess she thought Lola Ping Ping was her name, and she thought her real name was Josephina, but they always called her Ping Ping. Everybody had double names, Lola Ping Ping. My stepdaughter Ann was Ann. My stepson Jun was Jun. Just double entendres. So we went on a trip, drove to California, or flew, I can't remember.
We flew.
Yeah. And Lola Ping Ping thought she was going to get to keep the kids because she had told Annie she'd be keeping the kids. And I said, no, you're not. I said, they haven't been with their father for 10 years. And they're coming home with us, and I'm the petitioner. This is on me. I'm the person that petitioned them. They have to be with me.
Right.
So they came back to Katy, Texas with us, and that starts thus Colleen's tale of this now.
That was January of 1982, and Jean wasn't quite 2 years old. I was 14, Terry was 13, Maida was 14. Maida and I are 2 days apart. She's August 9th, I'm August 11th. And then Ann was 11, and Jun was 12. 12 and a half, something like that. Bernard was 7. Right? 7.
Well, he's 39 now, and Ann's 43.
I don't know.
That's 1913.
She's about to be 43, yeah.
In 2013.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway. They show up. We're living in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house that's 1,000 square feet.
That's 9 people for those that can't do the math.
Let's do the math.
9 people, 1 bathroom.
Basically, girls and boys split up into the bedrooms. Jean winds up sleeping with our parents. because he's still relatively a baby, but he would wander over. He would a lot of times sleep in our room, the girls' room.
He'd fall asleep on the floor.
Yeah. He just was allowed to sleep wherever he wanted. He just fell wherever he fell. That was where
Wherever
he slept.
the body fell, yeah.
So he, Anne will tell you that she thought I was really mean and a bitch. And I don't remember that, but I felt very threatened by them because I was always the only girl, and now here were two girls, and I didn't know how to live with girls. I only lived with boys, and sharing. I didn't have to
Except
share
her
my
mother.
stuff. You know, my girl things, my bedroom, my personal space, was usually mine. And now I was having to share with these two strangers who I had no connection to really outside of just hearing about them and seeing pictures back and forth over the years. And them for me as well, but they had each other that they knew. But little did I know, Maida and Anne had a lot of animosity between the two of them, and they would fight a lot. And
because, side note, Anne was just a natural beauty, and you'd look at her and you'd think, oh, she's so pretty. And
so
here
cute.
stupid adults would tell her all the time, oh, you're so pretty. And then they'd look at John, the brother, and they'd say, oh, and he's so cute. And then they just, no comment for Maida whatsoever. And Maida was not pretty. It wasn't, she didn't come
At that
into
age,
her
yeah, she
own
wasn't cute
looks.
until she
It was
was-
like the story of the swan.
Yeah.
She was exotic. When she came into her own, it wasn't that you'd look at Maida and say, oh, she's pretty. Where Anne
is
has
pretty.
just always been, no, she's more beautiful. She's exotic.
Yes.
There's a difference in that someone is pretty
Oh, that's true.
and
Yeah.
someone has that exotic look to them and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Maida now is a grown woman, and even as a young girl, about 15, she started to
she
come
was like
into her own,
15,
and she was
16, yeah.
exotic.
Yes, true.
And guys were tripping over themselves to get to know Maida.
That's true. But initially, not so much.
No.
And they still had that fresh off the boat refugee
Absolutely.
thing about them. Like,
Plaid clothes and polka dot shirts. And
well, when they first came to the U.S., it was amazing, and I tell other people this story, that how much they could eat. I mean, they were,
Oh, my God.
they could pile that food away. And they were stick thin. They were all
oh,
super
yeah,
skinny.
very tiny,
But
skinny.
they could eat, man. They would eat just a pile of food, like rice and, stir fry and all that. They just piled it in.
I mean,
Maida
where
would-
Colleen looked, American children can look like, Colleen at 14 probably looked like she was 16, 17.
Yeah.
Where Maida at 14 looked like she was 11.
Yeah, she looked young.
Yeah.
She had a really deep voice for a girl, too. So she had a hard time at school. In the first year she was there, she was made fun of a lot. She had a hard time. And so Anne said the first thing I said to them was, this is my stuff, and that's your stuff. And
Don't touch it.
Don't touch my stuff. That was basically the sum total of my remarks. which I
Embracing
find
them, welcoming
hard to
them,
believe,
yeah,
'cause
welcoming them into their
I'm not
their space.
purposely mean
No.
person. I never would have been, but I guess Anne recognized that as, oh, she's doesn't want us here, and she's letting us know, don't touch her shit. But Maida had a problem with, I don't want to say theft, but she would hoard stuff under her bed, like food. They would put cans of food under their beds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Maida was stealing from me and from Anne, her sister.
And from me.
And from my mom. And so, they would leave, and we would search her stuff, and I'd find my earrings or other things that she
Stuff Aunt Kay had given you, my jewelry.
And then,
Then she started stealing from the store.
oh, I didn't know she stole from the store. No.
And when we found out about it, we sat her down, her dad and I, and we told her, honey, if you needed or wanted this, just ask us. We'll go to the store and buy it. Don't ever take stuff from the store.
Wow. Yeah, I think she had a real fear of
Not having stuff.
yeah, and I don't know, they had a pretty impoverished existence living with their mom in the Philippines in this sort of shack house that was owned by their grandfather.
And Colleen knows this because when they were 18 and graduated high school, she took her dad and Maida back to the Philippines on a vacation. And Colleen got to see firsthand how it was
Yes.
where they had been living.
They
and I'll let you tell
They
that.
lived in
dirt floor, one bulb hanging
Yes,
from the ceiling,
this
shack.
well, no, they didn't live in that house. That's where their mother was living at that time. They lived in a teeny tiny house, which looked like a palace compared to the place Annie was actually living in when I went
Oh,
there.
I thought they
No.
lived there with Annie.
That was a one-room shack that Annie was stuck in with that boyfriend she had at the time, Nick.
Nick,
whatever,
Nick.
whatever.
Huh?
But the place they were living in as children with her was the little house. It has a little house on her Annie's father's property, which he probably booted her out of when another person offered more money for the house. And I think that's...
How nice.
Yeah, they were a real piece of work, but the whole place sucked. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm coming from the U.S., so of course it's going to suck to me, but
I don't
it
know.
was like
Those
a
pictures
Vietnam War movie.
Yeah,
war
those
movie,
pictures that
prison
Maida
camp.
had from their vacation last year were gorgeous.
Well, they were in resorts. Those were not people's houses. Those were hotels they were at. So yeah, that was a pretty
dismal.
Yeah, I mean, it was they didn't have money, they didn't have stuff.
They didn't have food.
Yeah, it was rough. Rough. And I didn't know Maida actually. You see, I don't know if you saw this picture she put, but the little palm baskety thing that she quilted. That she wove. You know how you used to weave the baskets for fun for crafts? Well, she wove little basket steamer things for rice packets.
Okay.
And she would sell those as a kid. She sold hundreds of them to make money.
For people to have a snack of rice?
I guess they would use them to steam rice in these little basket things. I don't know if it was a sweet rice or
Wow.
what.
I bet it was the sweet sticky rice.
But Maida wove the palm
I know what
fronds
you
by
mean.
hand and sell these baskets by the hundred to make money. As a kid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know they
either.
collected bottles.
I didn't
like
realize
that.
she had done that for me. She's like, I almost forgot about it. And then she wove a basket while she was there. Like she remembered.
How to do it.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I was like, oh my God.
Well, it's like a kid, like Ayla and Lily, my granddaughters, setting up a Kool-Aid stand last year and selling Kool-Aid for money or lemonade.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Well, he might have selling because
To
they didn't
survive.
have money.
Right,
Not
they
because
didn't
they just
have
want to
money.
make some money
Right.
to buy a toy,
Right. That was probably to eat.
Yeah. So, it was very rough when they were first here. There was a lot of issues.
When was it you said that it kind of softened your heart? It was something you had heard Maida crying or that, and it like touched your heart. She was just crying in the night or that for her mom.
Well, I felt bad about that, but it didn't really soften me to her, any
What
real
was the
thing.
turning point that softened your heart towards
It
your
was,
sister?
I know what it was. Where I felt bad. Coincided with them first coming here, and I wanted to tell the story about Joan and Terry and that fight in the kitchen.
Oh,
That was a good one
God,
as well.
yes.
It was a very tumultuous year.
Meanwhile, Ramon and I are just going to work every day,
I'm going to work every day, trying to make a living, trying to make a family work, and it was really difficult.
We needed counseling. Here you go again, not
They
getting
were ill-equipped
therapeutic,
to blend a
ill-equipped to
family
blend
together.
families.
People didn't know. You just did stuff. You just put it together and worked it
Kept
out.
on trucking.
That's how people did. But you had so many factors
Right.
going on. You had cultural differences. You had divorce issues. You had, too many people in a small space.
Right.
That was just no adult supervision during the day.
Right.
In the summer. Because they came in January, so by the summer...
Well, we had supervision until Ramon left for work. So don't
Right.
let people think you were unsupervised from 7 a.m. when two parents went out the door to work. No.
Right, but he
I
left
went
for
out.
work at like noon. He didn't leave at 2.
Well, I
he
don't know
left
why
like-
you left that early unless it was to get the hell out of the house from all your kids.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of it later on.
No, because he didn't go till
1:30.
2 in the afternoon.
Maybe it was 2. So, but really, even if you left at 2, you didn't get home till like 6.
Mhm.
Sometimes later.
Absolutely.
So that's still a good 4
4
hours
hours.
of no parents in the house.
Right.
But it's not like we were doing anything bad.
Right.
But it was, I didn't want anything to do with them, and they didn't want anything to, do with each other. I think Jun, our brother, was very jealous of Terry.
Now,
What
June
Jun
is
perceived-
how many years younger than Terry? I mean,
1.
not even years. 6 months?
Yeah, he's like 6 months.
He's born in
younger than Terry.
January and Terry's born in July.
Yes, well, it was a fight over food. as you would imagine, adding 3 extra people to the household who could eat quite a bit put a strain on the food, supply.
Oh, and I've always been very
Yeah.
regimented. When I buy something, it's for a recipe. And you better not open anything that's for a recipe.
Well, and this comes, again, we'll have to devote an entire podcast to this, just this topic of food issues.
Food issues.
And whatnot. But, yeah, recipe and food was designated a specific type. Like, cereal was for breakfast. That was a breakfast food.
Right.
It wasn't a snack food. It wasn't
We never
eat a
had
bowl of
snacks.
cereal in the afternoon if you're hungry. No.
I never had snacks. I didn't grow up with snacks.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up with breakfast.
Right. So we didn't really have snacks at home. There wasn't really a snack thing at our house. And so cereal was designated for breakfast. So I believe the fight between Terry and Jun resulted from Jun going to eat a bowl of cereal in the afternoon, wanting a bowl of cereal because he
After
was
school
hungry.
snack or that.
And Terry, this was summertime, I believe, because you guys were not home. And Terry had a cast on his left arm.
remember that.
He broke his wrist riding his bike or something, so he had a cast on. And he told Jun, "Hey, you can't eat that, man. That's
Breakfast.
That's a breakfast food. Like you can't
Like
eat
he was the
cereal.
parent,
right?
yeah.
Like we can't eat we can't do that." And Jun was like, "I'm hungry. I'm going to eat it," kind of thing. And there was a language barrier. Everybody in the Philippines speaks English, but it's not one of the things that happens when they first would come here. And I don't know if this is still true today, but the pronouns would get confused. Like you would say he, she, we, they. It would be mixed up. Like you would say he for she and that kind of stuff. So sometimes it was hard for them to articulate in English what they were trying to say in the beginning of when they first moved here. So Jun was stammering, like he wanted to eat it. He was getting really frustrated, and Terry was blocking his way to get milk out of the refrigerator.
Which would be Terry 100%.
Because Terry is like, hell no,
We're all gonna get in
trouble if you eat this cereal or whatever, which is
God,
pathetic.
what
when
does
you
that
think
say
it.
about me as a mom, a parent?
Well, it was the rule.
God.
It wasn't a free reign food house.
Right.
Which probably contributed to some of, well, I know it contributed to my food issues, but I don't know if Terry feels the same way. I'll have to ask him. But Jun, I don't know where he got a pair of scissors, but there was a pair of
In
scissors
the drawer
somewhere,
in the kitchen, probably.
and he went to stab Terry with the scissors. And
Yep.
Terry deflected him with the cast. And he stabbed him in the cast instead of his body.
Right.
Which apparently was going to stab Terry with a pair of scissors to get him out of the way so he could get the milk. That being said, I don't know if he ever got the milk or ate the cereal. I can't remember. But I remember it was a really bad evening because, we had to tell that Jun tried to stab him with scissors.
Right.
And Jun got really...
I remember Ramon just flipped out.
Dad was really pissed, really upset about it and angry. And then made things worse between Jun and Terry, worse between Jun and Dad, because Dad was so critical of him.
And you were
Instead of
saying that
thinking-
Jun was jealous of Terry.
I think he was really jealous of Terry having a relationship with Dad, because I think Jun always so longed to have that
He
father-son
longed to
relationship
have a
that he
father-son
wasn't
relationship.
getting.
Absolutely.
And Ramon just sucked at
Parenting. Once you
Parenting.
became over a baby
yeah.
and over a toddler,
He
he
didn't know
lost
how to
that
relate.
ability.
He
Right.
didn't know how to be the leader in that relationship. He was, like I was very forthcoming with affection and Dad and blah blah blah. And so it was easy to be, my parents.
Reciprocate.
I guess.
Yeah.
Compared to the others who weren't
Right,
as forthcoming
absolutely.
with that emotional.
But he
stuff.
was a really good father to a baby, to
Yeah.
a toddler, loving,
Yeah.
kind.
Well, he was always kind. I mean, he was never. He was
changed
not a mean
diapers.
man in any
He was
way.
a wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, and you could
But
ask him
once
stuff
you
and he
became
would
a
talk to you and
thinking,
tell you
talking, intelligent human being with your own ideas and thoughts,
But he wasn't going to
had a
take the
harder
helm
time.
and say, "Let me figure out what's going on with my kid." No.
No.
He would wait for you to come to him and ask for help. That's the kind of
Right.
father he is, really, to this day. even.
Right.
He's not going to be like, "Hey, how's it going?" So I felt bad for Jun in that regard. I think that really
You were
Played
telling
in.
what softened your heart towards Maida.
right.
This is how we
so
got
this
out
is-
on this.
So I'll get to that. So I remember after this that Jun, like Terry, was missing one of the big things when we were kids. Well, they had Astroworld here, which is like a big Six Flags theme park type place. They since ripped it all down recently.
Yeah,
in the
David
last couple
and
of years.
Blaze were just talking about the Astroworld last week.
Astroworld. And in the summer, the big thing to do was get an Astroworld season pass, and you were set for the summer as long as you could get somebody's mom to dump your ass off.
And dump you there, and then someone to pick you up.
Yeah, be gone the whole day and have something to do at least once a week. You know, let's say once or twice a week you could be at the Astroworld. So I think that year, Terry and I had season passes for some reason. I don't know when we got these, because I don't remember going to Astroworld very much. And I was not a big fan of roller coasters or anything like that, but I liked hanging out and playing games and stuff, you know. And Terry's season pass went missing. Like, he couldn't find it anywhere.
God, should have checked Midas first.
And literally, like a year later or something, we found it in the fence, in the slats of the fence, like someone had shoved it in between the slats of the back fence, like along the bayou. His Astroworld season pass and then some other thing that he was missing. We both shoved into that, like Jen had taken them and shoved them in the
fence.
Fuck you, Terry. I'll show you I can't eat any cereal.
Right.
You're taking my dad away from me. You know, so that I remember like, oh, it's so underhand and diabolical, you know.
Yeah.
And never a word spoken, never an inkling that he knew what was up with that.
Too bad he didn't tell him in the later years, hey, by the way, Jen, I found my season pass to Astroworld and my blah blah in the fence.
Yeah. So it was just really, it was that type of situation going on. But what really stopped me, at the same time that all this was going on, one of the ways that made it possible for you and Ramon to get the children here financially was the loan that you took out
against your trust.
Well, this is a whole other story too we could tell. Is my getting. I was hit by a car when I was 8. Story for another time. Got a settlement. Was in trust, and Mom was my trustee over the money. She worked for a credit union. She went to the credit union and tried to get a loan, and she used my money, my trust money, as collateral for the loan. Like, if
it was called a shared secure loan.
Shared secure loan, like as if they could touch. But see, here's the thing: that's illegal. First of all,
but they didn't know.
They didn't know. Never said anything.
I didn't know it.
Know. And
then I got ill.
By the time, so you had already started making payments on it. Is that what it was? Okay.
And I got ill and couldn't work. I had my gallbladder.
Right. Okay, this is what tipped the court that something was going on with the money.
Well,
that someone had taken a loan.
You had to make a statement to
the... So when the court found out, they were like, oh, hell no. You can't touch a child's trust money. That's illegal.
That's
There's
a
no way.
no-no.
You're never getting that money, you know. Like, the credit union's never going to get that money because it's in trust legally for this person.
They told me I was going to go to prison.
So while we're going through this, trying to blend the family, stabbing in the kitchen, food, and we hate each other, and it's summer, and we're all cooped up in this house by ourselves, you get your gallbladder out, which was major fucking surgery back then. Major surgery. She looked like death warmed over. She's ill. Now we're into summer now. It's summer. And all this shit's going on. And they tell Mom, the court tells Mom, you might go to jail.
Right.
You're definitely going to have your cars repoed. Blah, blah, blah. Anything you bought with this loan is gone. You got to give it all back.
Give it all back.
And you're going to have to pay all this money back, too.
Right.
And you might have to go to jail. So Mom, of course...
Mom fashion?
In Mom fashion of being, holy shit, I'm going to prison.
Terrified me.
Sends Maida, Ann, and Jun back to California to live with Lola Ping Ping. And that's when I started feeling sorry for them, because that lady was a mean bitch.
Because Colleen is like, oh, hell.
Alright, let me not call her a bitch. She was not nice. You know,
well, she was way old school, way strict.
Super strict, ridiculously strict.
Right, ridiculously.
Mean.
Dressed young children exactly alike from head to toe.
Maida and Ann wore matching clothes. They had matching dresses, matching haircuts, matching everything. Because they were the girls, so they were obviously the same. And
because Lola Ping Ping was brought up with her sisters that they were dressed from the tip of their head to the bottoms of their feet exactly alike.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
And
God.
so that was her way to do it, the way it had been done for them.
She also kept accusing Anne of trying to flirt with her
With her husband.
5-year-old husband, and that she
Lolo
was
Joe.
convinced that Anne was on the make for her,
Her
ancient
old-
grandfather, step-grandfather,
Yeah,
no less,
step-grandfather.
when Anne is all 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
I mean, literally. Are you
Right.
kidding me?
That's right.
So she was especially mean to Anne because of that.
Right.
And they weren't allowed to watch TV. They weren't allowed to have friends. They weren't allowed to call anybody. They weren't allowed to do anything. Every minute.
Gosh, I guess
sucked.
it wasn't so bad for them then when they came back to us, was it?
And when I heard about all that shit, I felt super bad because I really hated having them there in the beginning. But when they were gone, and I had heard about how awful it was, and I think Maida and she had an altercation because Maida couldn't take it anymore,
Right.
and there was like an incident, wasn't there? Something like that.
I don't even
I
remember.
thought Maida
see.
like slapped her. Or maybe she didn't.
Ooh.
No, I don't think she did. She said something. Kiki was the one that hit her. I think back in the day. Remember that years ago?
That's
Kiki
the
slapped
cousin,
her.
Kiki,
I want to say that.
who also got sent to Lola Ping Ping.
Yeah.
You know, Lola Ping Ping,
The
everybody
woman
thought
that
that was
pushed
their
you.
salvation.
I mean, they're, she didn't really give two shits about me or Terry because we weren't blood children to Ramon. So she didn't invest any time in us to try to force us to do anything, thank goodness, because that would have just sucked. And,
Well, she also knew she was going to have to deal with me
Yeah.
if she did anything to you. And she may be able to browbeat her Filipino daughter-in-laws, but she wasn't
Yeah.
going to be able to browbeat her American
yeah.
daughter-in-law.
I talked to her quite a lot when we were,
When
one
she
time
was
when
with
we were
us?
kids. No, when we were kids and we were dumped off there for 3 weeks one time, which sucked.
Oh, in California.
Yes. And
You talked to her, you said?
yeah, quite a lot, because I was a chatty
You were a chatty child.
and I wanted to learn stuff and ask her questions and all, which I'm sure, I don't know if she liked it or not, but she talked to me and was never
Right.
mean. She never said anything mean to me that I remember, so she was trying, I guess.
Right.
And, but, she would tell me stuff about, how girls should behave and how women should behave and, what's expected of you as a woman and all that kind of shit. Like cleaning, cooking,
Right.
sewing.
Sewing.
I wanted her to teach me how to sew. She was a wonderful seamstress,
Oh.
made beautiful
Made
wedding
beautiful
gowns.
gowns.
I thought that was really awesome. Of course, not at 7 or 8 years old or whatever I was at the time. I had no clue how hard the work was to sew. So I'm like, teach me how to sew, Lola. And she's like, okay, you hem this nightgown. Just a regular, whatever that stitch is. That
Right.
In and out, up and down,
Just
the very
in- yeah.
basic. Couldn't get it straight. It was, God, boring. Boring. She would never teach me anything beyond that because I hadn't mastered that. Like, you have to master this first, and then we move on to the next one.
And that's true. That's how you do it.
So to this day, hate sewing.
To this
Won't
day,
sew.
I can sew. I sewed David's pants about a month ago because
Did you?
getting in the
Right,
back
right,
of the
right.
truck, he ripped his pants,
Yeah.
and not just on the seam, but off of the seam.
Right.
And I was able to stitch that where you couldn't even see it because I always loved to sew. Now, I don't sew,
Right.
but I know how to sew, and then...
Well, I can sew like
Yeah.
a button on or repair
oh, no,
a
no,
rip,
I'm talking repair.
like a rip.
Yeah.
I can do that, but it's not real good. I'm not real.
Oh, mine's real good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I hate it. So
And I
don't
like
do it.
crafting. Here's the difference. You've never been a crafter.
No.
I love to craft. I've just stopped it.
I will wear a shirt with a rip in it until it gets too big, and then I'll throw it out.
Oh, God.
I won't. Fuck it. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do it. I can't sew. Wayne would sew. He sewed like any patches the kids had for karate. He sewed on. Not me.
Oh,
He would sew things, and I would never do it. So that was his thing. But
so
okay.
that's what
So,
made you soften
yeah,
towards
that's what made me
Maida, was that
soften.
them being by Lola, their grandmother.
And I knew it was horrible, and I remember hearing about whatever the incident was. And then when they came back, the court case was settled, and you weren't going to
I
prison.
wasn't going to jail. Because the court said, hey, if you, the credit union, didn't know, how is she supposed to
Right,
know?
you're supposed to be the one to tell her
Right,
from the
you're
get-go.
to tell her, no,
denied.
you can't do that,
can't
denied.
take a loan against
Right.
this money. You got to get a loan.
And
on
they
your own.
removed me as trustee, and then
Right.
they put that dumbass
dumbass
attorney
guy.
that
Yeah.
was probably milking the account
I don't
for
know
his
what to
own
do.
fees.
Well,
So then we brought the kids back, or we went and picked them up. I forget if we went there or we flew them back. I don't remember. Or Lola Ping Ping came with them.
No, I don't think she came down here. I think you had them flown back here, or you guys went by yourselves because I didn't go. We didn't.
I don't even remember how we got them back.
So I think they just flew back.
Yeah.
I want to say that. Shipped them back. I was, well, not thrilled to see them back. I felt compassion for them having to live with her because I knew what spending any time with her was like, just in general.
Right.
Then when I heard from Maida and Ann how freaking horrible it was there, and that she was making them, she was, first of all, making you dress exactly like your sister who's 3 years younger than you.
Right.
Dressing you like you are 10 years old when you're 14.
Right.
And I can only imagine if Texas, how kids were dressing in California. Can you imagine? I mean, compared
way
to
ahead
high
of
school.
us.
I mean,
yeah,
right?
way ahead of us.
That was Northern Cal, sort of Bay Area. I mean, I don't know what they were wearing then, but I'm sure it wasn't fucking pinafore dresses like she had them wearing. And ugly, I mean, for real. Homemade
Lord.
clothes like
Homemade
Amish
clothes,
people.
right.
Like, come on. If you weren't fresh off the boat then.
Oh, Lord.
FOBs. But and then Anne had told me about the lunch that she would make them, tomato sandwiches. I mean, sandwiches with tomatoes that would go nasty, and that the tomatoes weren't even fresh anymore, and she would not waste anything. Remember, she's the queen of washing her bags out, which you need to throw those out, by the way. Mom has started becoming a clear old lady, washing her freezer bags out.
Washing my freezer bag and my aluminum foil.
No.
That's what my brother told me.
Uncle Dennis washes bags.
Absolutely. And his aluminum foil and saves his coffee.
You tell him this is what the mark of an ancient old ass person is, and he will stop that right now. Do not save.
Hey, I scrubbed
bags.
them good. I scrubbed them
God.
inside and outside with soap
You know,
and
if it
hot
takes
water.
me buying you a thing of it every week, so you won't do that anymore, stop doing that. That's
Lord.
so gross. Next thing you know, Lola Ping Ping also saved paper towels.
No, I don't do that.
And
I never
the
thought you could do that.
styrofoam meat things that meat was on. She would wash those and then use those later.
For what?
I don't know. She would put the meat on. I don't know what she did with it. I don't remember. She would put the meat on it, raw meat on it when she chopped it up, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
I thought it was crazy. Even at 8 years old, I knew she was crazy. You know, doing that. I was like, that just doesn't seem right.
That's gross.
That's gross.